The time is 10:29 a.m. We're on the record. This is the deposition of Greg Neitzke for the case of Friends of Denver Parks, Inc. et al. Versus City and County of Denver et al. Case number 2013-CV032444 in the District Court, City and County of Denver, Colorado. Today is March 18th, 2014. We are located at 1660 South Albion Street, Suite 1100, Denver, Colorado. The court reporter is Deanna Basinger. The videographer is J.R. Wren, CLVS. The attorneys will identify themselves, beginning with the attorney on the left and the deponent's right.
My name is John Case. I represent the plaintiffs. With me is Christopher Franceschi.
David Broadwell, representing the City and County of Denver.
Jerome D. Herrera, representing Denver Public Schools.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Thank you.
Would you please state your full name?
Gregory Scott Neitzke,
What is your residence address, please?
2993 South Zenobia Street, Denver, Colorado,
Your date of birth?
10958.
Are you an employee of the City and County of Denver?
Yes, I am.
And how long have you been an employee of the city?
24 and a half years.
What is your title?
Land surveyor
For any particular department?
for the Department of Parks and Recreation.
How long have you been the surveyor for the Department of Parks and Recreation?
For about 20 years.
And what have your previous titles been, if any, as a city employee?
Draftsman, GIS analyst, and park surveyor or land surveyor.
When did you become a land surveyor?
1985.
Could you tell us about your educational background, please?
I have an associate's degree from Red Rocks Community College. Been practicing surveying since 1976. I am licensed in Colorado and licensed in the state of Kansas as well. So with continuing education almost every year since then.
And are you a civil service employee of the city, or are you appointed?
Civil service, career service employee.
Career service. Thank you. So one of the topics that we wanted to talk to you about this morning is how land owned by the city can become a park. Have you done any investigation about that?
Yes, I have.
And what investigation have you done?
Just through the normal practice of what the city does. Parks become, or land becomes parks by deeds, by plats, by ordinance.
And how about land acquired before 1955?
That would, through deed restrictions, through intentions of the city. If the city intended to purchase or acquire property for a park, they would have made those intentions, and then their actions would have followed to develop a park.
So that would be a common law dedication of a park?
That I don't know. Can't answer that.
And how do you find out what the city intended?
By reading the deeds and the acquisition documents.
Do you talk to people in the Parks Department?
Yes, I do.
So you value their opinion about whether or not land is a park?
To a degree. I rely on the records and the actions of the city.
So if the city has acted for a long time treating land as a park, then that's important to you?
I do consider that in the equation, yes.
And in your view, do actions speak louder than words?
It would depend. When you're looking at the face of a deed speaks for itself.
I'd like to show you an exhibit here. This is number 19. Take your time to look through this. Mr. Neitzke, is Exhibit 19 an affidavit that you signed in this case?
Yes, it is.
Did someone ask you to sign this affidavit?
It was presented by the city attorney,
Which city attorney?
Patrick Wheeler.
Do you know Patrick Wheeler?
Yes, I do.
Is he the city attorney that's assigned to Parks Department?
Yes, one of them.
Who are the others?
Karen Avalis does work from time to time, but I think Patrick is primarily the one.
How long has Patrick Wheeler been an attorney from the city attorney's office who works primarily with parks?
I can't answer that. Don't know.
Since you've been the surveyor for the Parks Department, has that been his role?
I've known Patrick for quite a number of years, right? When he started as a parks attorney, I don't know.
Well, since you've known Mr. Wheeler, has he been the attorney for the Parks Department?
Yes.
And how many years is that you've known him?
Probably 15.
Hey, so I want to ask you about some of the statements here on page 2 of Exhibit 19. Christopher, this is what we're looking for. Okay, skip it. So, could you read paragraph 3 out loud, please?
In my role as park surveyor, I manage and am familiar with the real estate records, surveys, and archives of Denver Parks and Recreation in regard to city parks.
So what does it mean that you manage real estate records?
When transactions are made, I keep records of those, put those in the parks records and files. So in my research, I use parks records for it, so that's part of that management.
Okay, and when you file real estate records, where do you place them? Physically, where are they located?
Generally, if they're a recorded document, they're in a clerk and recorder's office, and we keep records, a hard copy and then an electronic copy.
Where do you keep your hard copies, the ones that you refer to?
In a file cabinet,
In your office?
right in the office there.
Where is your office?
The 6th floor of the Wellington Webb Building.
Is your office part of the Parks office suite or something different?
It's part of the Parks office suite.
And when you search records, do you search the records that are in the Parks office suite?
Yes.
Did you make a search of records before you signed this affidavit?
In regards to,
Well, there's 2 attachments here, attachments 1 and 2,
certainly, yes.
and you found those in your records?
Right.
And by that you are, I mean in the Parks
the
Department
Parks
records?
records, yes, sir.
Did you look for lists of parks anywhere other than in the Parks Department records at the Wellington Webb building?
No, I didn't.
Did you call any former employees of the Parks Department to see if they knew of any other lists?
No, I didn't.
And what's the significance of attachment 1 to your affidavit?
The list from 1951?
Yes.
Can you repeat your question?
Yeah, what's the significance of this? Why is it important?
This would be a list of the parks that the city had considered to be parks in 1951.
Are all of these parks on attachment 1, or are they all within the city limits of Denver?
That I don't know.
Could you
I did
take a
not
quick
confirm
look?
that. I don't know what the city limits in 1951 were, so I'm not sure. I would surmise that they are.
Okay. Are there any mountain parks on attachment 1?
No, there are not.
So as far as you know, attachment 1 includes only parks within the city limits in 1951.
That would be my assumption, yes.
And what's the significance of attachment 2?
It would be the list of parks, I believe, from 1956. An inventory from the Denver Planning Office of park sites from 1956.
Okay, on this list, are all of these parks also within the Denver city limits?
Not knowing what the city limits were at that time, but I would surmise they are.
There are no mountain parks on this list?
No.
So if there were a park outside the city limits, it wouldn't be on this list, true?
Not on this list, no.
Right. And it wouldn't be on attachment 1 either, true?
Correct.
Where was Hampton Heights North Park in 1955? Was it within the city limits or outside the city limits?
I'm not aware.
Objection of the characterization of Hampton Heights North Park as being indefinite. Go ahead, Nancy.
Are you familiar with a piece of land called Parcel 31?
Yes.
Where was Parcel 31 in 1951? Was it inside the city limits or outside the city limits in Arapahoe County?
Outside the city limits.
So you would not expect to see Parcel 31 on either Attachment 1 or Attachment 2, true?
Not necessarily.
Now then, what was your assignment in making your investigation to sign this affidavit? What were you asked to do?
One of the assignments was to provide a list of parks for the document discovery.
Anything else?
Just documents related to the request for documentation.
Okay, so were you asked to go talk to Parks Department employees to see what they knew about Hampton Heights North Park being a park?
I'm going to object at this point if these questions are going to any city attorney-client privileged conversations, and you don't have to answer those questions to the extent the question's vague in terms of who or were you asked. It's in the passive voice. But to the extent this has to do with any advice you receive from a city attorney, you don't have to answer.
Well, let me rephrase the question. Did you talk to anybody in the Parks Department to see if Hampton Heights North Park was a city park?
Certainly.
Who did you talk to?
The manager and deputy manager?
So you talked to Lori Dannemiller and Scott Gilmore,
Yes, I did.
and they told you that Hampton Heights North Park wasn't a park?
No, they didn't.
What did they say?
Their knowledge of, other than talking to them about the subject, I wanted them to be aware of the questioning and the issue. Other than that, they had no opinion on it.
I see. Now, who is your immediate supervisor?
David Marquardt,
And who does he report to?
Gordon Robertson,
Who does he report to?
Scott Gilmore.
Other than Mr. Gilmore and Ms. Dannemiller, did you talk to anybody else in the Parks Department about whether Hampton Heights North Park had ever been a designated city park?
I don't believe so.
Now, each of the Parks districts has its own district office, true?
Correct?
There's an office at Havana and Yale for the Southeast Parks District, true?
Yes?
And do you know Mr. Kellner?
Mm-hmm. Yes,
How do
sir.
you know Mr. Kellner?
He was the park superintendent for the Southeast District.
Did he know his parklands pretty well?
Objection calls for speculation.
If you know.
He knew the property that he managed, yes.
Did you talk to him about whether or not Hampton Heights North Park was a designated city park?
That's a subject that he wouldn't have necessarily known that it was or wasn't.
Didn't he have a list of the parks that he was managing?
That was for management purposes, not necessarily for designation.
Did he have a list of the designated parks that he was managing?
Parks that were designated were included in the list, but not necessarily demarcated as such.
Do you know whether or not Mr. Kellner has personal knowledge whether Hampton Heights North Park was a designated park?
That I can't answer.
He would have to tell us that?
All right, you'd have to answer that.
Now, was Mr. Kellner a good superintendent for the Southeast Parks District, in your opinion?
In my opinion, yes.
Did you work for the Parks Department in 1987?
No.
That was before your time?
Yep.
Did you ever hear about a time when a developer wanted to put a Water World type park in Hampton Heights North Park?
I wasn't aware of that. You got a mini one there.
I'm sorry?
You have a mini one, the community swimming pool. Oh, in the Hampton Heights Park.
Right. But that's a private homeowners association pool, true?
Right.
So just for your information, in 1987, a developer approached the city and wanted to put a Water World in Hampton Heights North Park and was turned down. But I guess you didn't know about that.
No, I was not aware of that.
Now, the reason the developer was turned down was because the city considered that a park, not subject to development. Did you know that?
Did not know that.
Did you do any research about whether the city had considered Hampton Heights North Park a designated park?
I'm going to state an objection now as a continuing objection to any questioning about circumstances in the park after 1955 that were indicia one way or the other of whether it was a park, given the way it was treated after 1955, and that's a standing objection. Go ahead.
Could you repeat the question, please?
Did you do any research about whether or not the city had considered Hamden Heights North Park a designated park?
As far as parcel 31 goes, there's some documentation in the park's records that indicate they did not believe it was a designated park.
What documents are you referring to?
I believe there's a memo from John Stam is one of the documents.
Any others?
There's a letter from the editors requesting confirmation whether the park could be designated.
Any others?
Not sure.
So in your affidavit, the importance of attachments 1 and 2 is they showed the list of city parks in 1951 and 55, true?
Yes.
And it would be your conclusion that if a park is on this list, it's a park, true?
From 51, certainly, yes.
All right. And why would it be a park if it's on attachment 1?
It would have predated the charter change in 55, was effective in 56.
And how about the 1956 list?
I would have to look at it more carefully to... Not sure. Those wouldn't all necessarily be designated per se.
So let me just show you another document the city gave me. I'm not going to mark this because it's too big and it's my only copy, but it's the city Denver Parks and Recreation published map and parks list from February of 1995. Have you seen this before?
Yes, I have.
Is this one of the documents that you located in your search for parks records in this case?
Yes, it is.
And was this on file in the Parks Department?
It's available, yeah.
Right. So it's part of the official records of the Parks Department, true?
Sure.
All right. And is parcel 31 shown in this document?
There's an area that would encompass parcel 31.
Right. And what does it appear to be according to the map?
It is colored green, and the symbol says it's a municipal golf course.
So it's shown on here as part of the John F. Kennedy Golf Course?
Yes.
Is that a park?
Kennedy Golf Course is a golf course, yes. Yeah.
So it's a park, true?
Yes.
So let me show you the next document. This is another one that was provided. This is a parks list from a more recent time. I can't tell the date. Is this another document that you retrieved?
Yes.
All right. And this is part of the official records of the Parks Department?
Yes.
Mr. Neitzke, is, first of all, can you tell us what year this map and parks list was created?
I'm not seeing a date on it.
Can you approximate it for us?
I would guess 2009.
All right. And is there a listing on this parks list for Hampton Heights North? If you look on the left side, there's a little yellow sticky.
There is a listing of Hampton Heights North.
Okay. And is it shown? So that is part of the official parks list published with this document, true?
Yes.
So it's listed as a park, true?
On this map it is, yes.
Yes. And is the land shown on the map?
Yes.
Hampton Heights
Yeah.
North.
It's parcel 31, right? Yep.
All right. So I'm calling it Hampton Heights North. You call it parcel 31. They're the same, aren't they?
In general, yeah.
All right.
Say that.
So parcel 31 shows on this official publication of the Parks Department in 2009 as a park, true?
On the map, yes.
Now, do people, do citizens of Denver rely on these maps?
Certainly.
Objection calls for speculation.
You know that they rely on them from your own personal knowledge, true?
Sure.
And realtors rely on them when they sell homes, true?
That I don't know.
Thank you. Do you know Neil Sparendale?
Yes, I do.
How do you know Mr. Sparendale?
Worked with him for a short time in the Parks Department.
What was his position there?
I knew him as a landscape architect.
Was he head of long-range planning for the Denver Parks Department?
I think he performed that function, yes.
And then did he go to work for the Water Board after he left the Parks Department?
Yes.
Was Mr. Sparendale pretty knowledgeable about the parks?
I would say so.
And you knew that from your own personal experience with him?
Yes.
What is your understanding of how Parcel 31 was used by the public between 1936 and 1955?
I have no idea how it was used by the public.
Is that important in determining whether it was used as a park?
If there's record of it, certainly, sure. I didn't find, other than for city acquiring it for flood control connected with the Kenwood Dam, I don't know how it was used.
Actually, the deed doesn't say that it was acquired for any particular purpose, does it?
Correct.
Now, did the city acquire properties between 1933 and 1936 for recreation as well as flood control?
I'm sure they did, yes.
Because recreation has always been important to Denver citizens, true?
True.
And the land along Cherry Creek is a particularly desirable location for recreation, true?
True.
There's always been parks and bikeways and bridle paths along Cherry Creek. True?
That I don't know.
Ever since you've known the park system in Denver, there have been bridle paths and bike paths along Cherry Creek. True?
True.
And they're widely used by Denver citizens. True?
True.
So, in your investigation, did you try to find people who had actually used Parcel 31 in the time period 1936 to 1955 and ask them what they used it for?
No, I didn't. My focus was on whether the park was designated, or whether parcel 31 was designated.
Right, but designation prior to 55 included public use, didn't it?
Certainly.
So if people used it and the city allowed it, it was a park in 55. True?
Objection calls for a conclusion as to law. Go
You
ahead.
can answer.
Can you repeat the question?
Sure. If people used it as a park and the city allowed them to use it as a park, it became a park in 1955. True?
Under qualifications.
Which qualifications?
Just because recreation was performed on a parcel doesn't necessarily make it a park as well.
Right, but if the city knew it was used as a park and allowed it to be used as a park, when the amendment was passed in 55, it became a designated park. True?
Same objection.
If it were considered a park by the city, certainly.
Right. So, did you talk to any people who worked for the city in 1955?
No, I didn't.
Did you try to find any who were still living, who could have helped you with this problem?
No, I didn't.
And you didn't talk to anybody who used the park, any Denver citizens who used it, true?
True.
You just limited your search to what was available in the Parks Department files, true?
No.
What else did you do?
City records.
All right.
City records and intentions on this parcel.
All right, so what city records did you look at?
Ordinances, which there were no ordinances related to this parcel. The deed, maps, aerials.
Well, there was a 1955 ordinance, right?
For
For this parcel, parcel 31.
highway.
Well, there was an easement to CDOT, true?
True.
And the purpose of the easement was to connect parks outside the city limits with downtown Denver, true?
In this case, I don't know.
Isn't that in the ordinance itself?
There's language in the ordinance, but I'm not aware of parks out in that area.
Do you know Susan Baird?
Yes, I do.
How do you know her?
She worked in the park department as well.
Was she a pretty good parks planner?
Yes.
Was she serious about her job?
Yes.
Did you ask her whether parcel 31 was a park?
No, I didn't.
And is there a reason you didn't ask her?
Subject expert matter. Whether people are familiar with city records, if they weren't familiar with them, no, I didn't talk to them about it.
Thank you, Mr. Neitzke. That's all I have.
Thanks. And I just have two follow-ups. One, Mr. Neitzke, early in your testimony just now, when Mr. Case was asking you about, I don't remember which one it was, but a post-55 parks list maintained by the department, and my question is going to go to either lists or maps that you have in your archives after 1955. You indicated that those lists would have included designated parks, but might have included other facilities as well. But would you explain that a little bit more about any post-1955 list or map that would show the park system of the city and county of Denver, how the properties depicted and the properties listed would have been a combination of both designated and other properties managed by the department? What does that mean?
Those lists would have composed those properties that fell under the maintenance purview of the Parks Department. So it could have included designated parks, parks that are not designated, and other properties that, that we lease from other entities.
In fact, recently, are you involved at all in the current effort to take a bunch of old properties that have been managed by parks and formally now designate them as parks?
Yes, I am.
And what's your involvement in that current ongoing process?
I do the property research, evaluate the deeds, compile the legal descriptions for them, review title commitments, any documentation related to those properties, and then consult the city attorney regarding the appropriate designation or inability to designate.
And did you perform those tasks in association with the action that occurred the same night the City Council approved the conveyance of this property to DPS? They also formally designated the remainder of Parcel 31 as an addition to Hensel Park. Were you involved in that?
Yes.
Okay, you performed the chores you just talked about right there.
Correct.
In relation to that particular designation.
Correct.
Okay, and then just a final detail question. You were also asked about bridle paths and bike trails and so forth, and you say as long as you work for the Parks Department, you know that Cherry Creek corridor has been used for recreational trails, is that right?
Yes.
Did those recreational trails go through the school site, the 10.7 acres?
No.
That are being conveyed to DPS? I'm sorry.
No.
Thank you. Okay, that's all.
I have a few more follow-up questions. Let me show you Exhibit 32. Have you ever seen that document before today?
I saw this one yesterday.
So, did you look at the lists of parks that are attached to it?
Yes.
All right, so let's just start with Appendix 1. This is a page from the parks list for June of 1978. Do you recognize this as part of that parks list?
Yes, sir.
And does it show an unnamed park at Havana and Cornell? See the highlighted circle?
Yes, it does, yeah.
And
Right.
27.6 acres?
Yes.
And that's parcel 31, isn't it? After you subtract out the 10 acres for the CDOT easement.
It would seem so, yes.
So here, parcel 31 in 1978 is listed on the city's list of parks. True?
On this list, yes.
Could you look at Appendix 2, please? This is a parks list published by the Parks Department when Mr. Chancho was the manager of Parks and Recreation. True?
True.
So this would have been published in 1978 or 1979 during the McNichols, when Mr. McNichols was mayor of Denver.
I'm not sure when he was manager, but that seems about right.
Right. And is the unnamed park at Havana and Cherry Creek, is that on this list also?
Yes, it is.
And that would be parcel 31, wouldn't it?
It would seem so, yes.
And this On page 2 of Appendix 2, it says there are 202 parks in the Denver park system. See that?
Yes, I do.
And parcel 31 would be one of those 202 parks, wouldn't it?
It appears so, yes.
And then when we look at the map on page 2, it includes parcel 31. True?
True.
When we look at appendix number 3, this is a parks list from 1991. True?
True.
And they're showing parcel 31 as an unnamed park at Cornell and Havana. True?
True.
So parcel 31 is on this list in 1991 of Denver parks. True?
True.
And this is part of the official records of the Department of Parks and Recreation, isn't it?
True.
Could you look at Appendix 4, please? Appendix 4 is a page from the parks list that was published April 17, 1998. See that?
Yes. Yep.
This is a part of an official list of Denver parks. True?
True.
And this shows that Hamden Heights North open space, located at Dartmouth and Havana, is on the list of city parks. True?
It's on this list, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
now there's a mistake on this list, isn't there?
From...
Yeah,
What do
it
you mean?
shows that parcel 31 was acquired in 1981.
True.
That's a mistake, isn't it?
I would say so, yes.
It should say 1936. True?
When the city first acquired it, yes, would be 1936.
Could you look at Appendix 5, please? Let me go back to Appendix 4, I'm sorry. Do you know who actually physically prepared Appendix number 4?
No, I don't.
Who would have been responsible for seeing that it was done correctly?
I believe it would have been the deputy manager.
Who was it in 1998?
I think it was Charles Robertson.
And he still works for the Parks Department?
No.
I'm sorry. All right, now can we turn to Appendix 5? Appendix 5 is a page from the Parks Department list published October 8th, 1998. True?
True.
And it includes Hamden Heights open space north. True?
True.
Lists the location as Dartmouth and Havana. True?
True.
So it's referring to parcel 31 again. True?
That same area.
Yes. Showing it as a park. True?
It's on the list, yes.
All right. And again, we see this mistake repeated that it was acquired in 1981.
True.
Right. It should say 1936. True?
True.
And if it had said 1936, people would be alerted to the fact that it's a pre-1955 park. True?
No.
Could you look at Appendix 6, please? Appendix 6 is a page from the parks list that was printed October 11 of 2000. True?
True.
And it shows Hamden Heights North open space as a park. True?
It's on the list, yes.
Right? And it gives it a parcel number, 634. True?
True.
And again, this is referring to parcel 31, which is now being called Hamden Heights North. True?
True.
All right. Look at Appendix 7. Appendix 7 is from a document called Location Codes 2003. Do you recognize this as part of an official document that was produced from the records of the Department of Parks and Recreation?
Yes.
And does it show parcel 634, Hamden Heights North, as being on the list of parks?
It shows it on the list, yes.
Could you look at Appendix 8, please? Appendix 8 is the Southeast Maintenance District map and parks list, published in 2004. True?
True.
And that shows Hampton Heights North open space as a park, doesn't it?
On this map, yes, it would be shown in green as a park.
Right. And it's on the parks list, parcel 634. True?
True.
So here again, parcel 31 is shown as a park on an official city list. True?
It's shown as management under the Parks Division, yes.
Can you look at Appendix 9, please? This is from a list of Denver parks published in 2011. True?
Yes.
And once again, it includes parcel 31. Now it's listed as parcel 634. True?
True.
And this is the same land that's referred to in Appendix 9 as we see in green on Appendix 8. True?
True.
Then could you look at Appendix 10, please? Appendix 10 is part of a, can you tell me what it's from? The city provided it to me. I'm not sure where the document originated.
I think this is from our GIS group.
GIS group?
Right.
What's that?
Geographic Information System. It's the city's mapping system.
Okay. And does this show Hampton Heights North as a park?
It shows Hampton Heights North on the map. Yes, it does.
Could you look at Exhibit 11, please? Is this another document from, I'm sorry, Appendix 11. Is this another document from the GIS group?
Yes, it is.
And it also shows Hampton Heights North as a park?
It shows it on the map under the general park system, yes.
Let me show you Exhibit 21. You seen that document before today?
No, I haven't.
Well, this is an affidavit signed by Neil Sperandeo on August 29th, 1995. Could you take a few minutes to read it, please? Okay, you've read it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so would you look at paragraph 4? Can you read out loud what Mr. Sperandeo said here under oath?
A majority of the city parks were acquired prior to 1955, including Washington Park, City Park, Cheeseman Park, and the mountain parks.
Is that a true statement?
I don't know about majority, but the rest of it is true.
So a lot of Denver parks were acquired prior to 55. True?
A number of them were, yes.
Right. Could you read paragraph 5 out loud, please?
It is my interpretation and understanding of the Denver Charter that parks existing prior to 1955 are designated parks, and that there was no requirement that they be designated by ordinance. The department has consistently enforced this interpretation, which is in accord with the 1955 and the 1983 Charter amendments to A4-.5.
Okay. Is that a true statement?
I can't speak to that because it's his interpretation and understanding.
All right. Is that your understanding?
In a general sense, yes.
So there was no requirement that parks be designated by ordinance prior to 1955, true?
True.
It was a question of whether the public used the land as parks and whether the city intended the land to be used as a park, true?
True.
And other than looking at documents, you've made no attempt to determine the city's intent with respect to parcel 31 by interviewing people, true?
I did not interview Parks employees to get their opinion on whether it was a park or not.
Could you look at paragraph 7, please, on page 2? Just read the first sentence out loud.
The Denver park system consists of 206 parks encompassing 4,000 acres.
Now, based on the lists of parks that we've just looked at, parcel 31 is on all of these lists of 206 parks, true?
Yes, from the exhibits you gave me, yes.
Now, would you agree with me that if a park is already a park, there's no need to designate it by another ordinance, true?
No, I would disagree.
Okay. You think you have to designate them more than once?
If it's designated by an ordinance, no.
Are you familiar with the 2010 zoning code?
Somewhat.
Could you look at Exhibit 1, please?
Go off the record for a minute while I use the men's room.
Yes.
I've been waiting, but
I'm sorry, David.
reached the end of my rope.
Go ahead.
The time is 11:22. We're going off the record. The time is 11:25. We're back on the record.
Okay, Mr. Neitzke, could you look at page 3, please, of the of Exhibit number 1?
Okay.
And could you look at section 59.4, official map, and then subparagraph B under that, where it says all land located?
Okay.
Could you read that out loud, please?
All land located within the city and county of Denver shown on the official map as being zoned to a zone district in the Denver zoning code is hereby zoned as designated on the official map. All land within the city and county of Denver not being rezoned to a zone district in the Denver zoning code shall retain its zoning under the former Charter 59 as shown on the official map until and unless rezoned.
Well, let me show you two Exhibits 2 and 3. These are pages from the official map. Do they show parcel 31 as being OSA?
Yes, they do.
Then let me show you exhibit number 4. Do you recognize that as a page from the zoning code?
I have not seen this before.
Okay, take your time.
Okay,
Had a chance to read it?
sure.
Okay. It says that property that's classified as OSA is intended to protect and preserve public parks owned, operated, or leased by the city and managed by the city's Department of Parks and Recreation for park purposes. True?
True,
And that is what parcel 31 is on the official map. True?
true,
That indicates that it's owned by the city, managed by the Department of Parks and Recreation for park purposes. True?
for protection, for public purposes, yes.
Right.
Public, sure.
To preserve it for future generations. True?
Not sure that says that here, but
It says to protect and preserve public parks. True?
true.
So that's how the city council viewed this parcel on June 25th, 2010. True?
True.
Thank you, Mr. Neitzke. That's all the questions I have.
If I may, just a couple more. Mr. Neitzke, does your job involve anything involving zoning administration or enforcement of the zoning code?
No, it doesn't.
Okay. And again, just to loop back on a couple of things I asked you earlier. Just now, Mr. Case had you go through 11 separate documents of lists and maps that have been provided in this case. Were you the one that dug up all those maps to provide for discovery in the case?
Yes.
Okay, and so you recognized all of those when you saw them again today, is that right?
Yes, yes.
Okay, and so just to reiterate the question I asked in general earlier, as relates to those 11 documents, do those 11 documents, any of them purport to be exclusively a list of dedicated and designated parks, or instead do they represent all kinds of properties managed by the Parks Department?
They represent all the properties that were managed by the Parks Department.
To the best of your knowledge, based upon your familiarity with the records and archives of the department, is there a distinct map or list anywhere that is exclusively limited to what the city considers to be dedicated and designated parks?
I'm not aware of that.
And then finally, on a number of the documents that Mr. Case showed you again today, the property in question is referred not as Hampton Heights North Park, but Hampton Heights North Open Space, or some combination of those words. So again, based on your familiarity with the archives of the department, does that have any particular meaning when a property managed by the Department of Parks and Recreation is denominated open space as distinct from park?
I don't think there's a true distinction there.
You don't know that open space is defined anywhere in your policies or laws?
It more has to do with management of the property than the property itself.
Meaning what? How is open space managed differently from parkland?
It wouldn't be irrigated or mowed per se, so it would be considered open space versus a park.
Okay, thank you.
It's an internal classification.
Okay, thanks.
I have one follow-up question. Did I understand you correctly to say that there is no list of all of the designated and dedicated parks in Denver?
No, that's not what I said.
Right? What did you say?
There's no exclusive list of just designated parks.
So how could a person find out which parks are designated and dedicated if there's no exclusive list?
By researching each property.
And so what you're telling us is if the city says from 1967 through 2013 that a park is a park and puts signs on it that says it's a park and park rules on it to obey the park rules and tells the superintendent of the Southeast District that it's a park, we can't believe that unless we go and do some research. Is that what you're saying?
Can you repeat that, please?
And I'll object, the question's argumentative, but go ahead.
So what you're telling us is if the city says from 1967 through 2013 that a park is a park and puts signs on it that says it's a park and park rules on it to obey the park rules and tells the superintendent of the Southeast District that it's a park, we can't believe that unless we go and do some research? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that doesn't make it a designated park.
Thank you. That's all I have.
I'm done, thanks.
The time is 11:32. This is the conclusion of the deposition.